Alien frequencies open and welcome aboard Treks and Tangents. I'm your co-host Brian.
And I'm your co-host Jaci. I'm the Star Trek newbie who treks off on tangents.
And I'm your Star Trek expert who is here to get the tangents back on track. Each episode we watch and talk about a different Star Trek episode, and this week we watched
Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 7, Catspaw.
Welcome back for another episode, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to stick around till the end of the episode where we'll reveal our bonus Star Note episode topic, where we'll post over on Patreon a deeper dive into a topic about this episode.
And our infographic.
And the infographic on our rankings. But besides all that, before we get too far into it, let's quickly get out of the way, revisiting last week's Turbolift tease, where at the end of last week's episode, I gave Jaci the title to this week's episode, and Jaci, without any other context, tried to guess or predict what she thought this week's plot was going to be.
How about we skip that?
So, computer, what was Jaci's prediction last week?
Jaci's prediction last week was, the Enterprise encounters a cult on one of their expeditions, and even though they were going to be helping, giving aid to someone else on that same planet, they learned about this cult, and now they are trying to help the cult members know that they are being ordered around, and then finally we are able to get them to change their minds and we get them to safety at the other part of the planet that they were just helping.
So, Jaci, how accurate do you think your prediction was?
I mean, Colt and Cat both start with C.
Yes, they do both start with C.
See, I win. And then they had 3 followers.
They did have, by the end, 3 followers. Kind of.
I tried.
Yeah.
This is very hard when these names are like donkey. It's like, huh?
Yes, tune in next week for the episode entitled Donkey. Donkeys in Space.
But I did look up the word Catspaw and I learned a lot.
Yeah, well,
I used the dictionary a lot during this episode, thanks to Spock.
Okay, well, let's jump into our initial thoughts. Why don't you, because I see it's in your notes, why don't you explain what a catspaw is?
All right. It means to dupe an unwitting tool of another, derived from Jean de La Fontaine's fable, The Monkey and the Cat. So basically, it's like a dangler.
Yeah, it's to use someone as bait, and the other person that's being used as bait doesn't realize that they are being used as bait, or they're not cooperating in being the bait.
Like fishing.
Like a lure, yes. Yes. So that's what catspaw means.
It makes no sense.
It has a very loose interpretation or application in this episode.
Perhaps if they put the hyphen in the title, I would have gotten it better.
Sure.
It was just one word.
But what did you think about this week's episode?
It was intriguing. I liked how they threw in like things that we as in the general public know, like Halloween themes. I have no idea when it came out, but like black cats, castles, ghouls, witches, but they were all in the wrong context. And it reminded me a lot about the Lord of Gothos.
The Squire of Gothos?
Squire, yes.
Squire of Gothos? Sure. I didn't read anywhere that it's the same set, but it is very similar. It's a castle in the middle of nowhere.
And they could make up whatever they needed to do.
Sure. Not members of the Q Continuum, as we find at the end.
So sad for you.
So sad for me. Definitely very Halloween. And you're right, very off, which again ties into the overall plot of the script in a sense, because they do mention about how they're able to penetrate the brains of the humans, where they're drawing all this imagery and this dread, but it's from their subconscious, their lower brain, not their high conscious. They can't penetrate that far. They don't dive into it too far, but
I had to rewind that part a lot because I didn't understand it.
I don't think the writers understood what they were going for either.
They tried.
Yes. It's not going to come as any surprise. This is not a very highly rated or ranked episode.
I can understand it took a while to get some stuff going.
It has some problems for sure. However,
but you loved it.
I do like this episode. And the reason why I like this episode, it's Rocky Horror. If you break down Rocky Horror, and I've sprinkled in little Rocky Horror references because I love Rocky Horror. Shout out to all the Rocky Horror fans of the podcast. This is basically Rocky Horror. You have aliens from another dimension, another part of the galaxy, coming in, studying humans. You have one of those aliens going off mission. They no longer want to participate in the study. They want to go off. They want to indulge in their basic instincts, their more primal instincts, because they become addicted to that, experiencing that, and they have to be put down, which is exactly what happens with Frankenfurter in Rocky Horror.
So we're going to need to watch that again so you could tell me what this means. Because I've seen Rocky Horror with you, but I have not dissected it like that.
No.
I mean, I can dissect Con Air to and from, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so again, Rocky Horror, you've got Frankenfurter, you've got
And
Riff
the gold
Raff.
person.
That's Rocky.
Oh, okay, see?
Who is made by Frankenfurter. Because
Oh.
Frankenfurter, Riff Raff, and Magenta are aliens. They come down to Earth. They're there to do a mission. Frankenfurter is the semi-leader of that mission, but then he gets caught up in human emotions, lust, pleasure, so forth, and goes off the rails and has to be stopped. So I think if you really want to, if you compare them and you list them side by side, huge similarities. Absolutely. And that's why I like the episode. So it is completely biased of me.
So we need to find like a Rocky Horror Con for you to go see.
They have Rocky Horror Cons.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to Google that along with all the other words I Googled on
Yeah.
here.
I've been to Rocky Horror Con. It was
Did you dress up?
Yeah.
I have a dress you could wear next time.
It was in Vegas. We got kicked out of a food court. It was a lot of fun. So ultimately, I did like this episode.
Okay, back to the episode.
Back to the episode.
I liked it too.
I like it more. I like it more than I think most Star Trek fans like it because of that parallel. And it's just kind of a fun episode. Again,
Yeah.
It has its problems. We'll address them as we get to them. But I think enough about the episode. Why don't we just jump into it? Jackie, why don't you walk us through the episode?
All right, so first of all, I didn't know what planet we were on until at the very end. So I want to start from the end and go to the beginning so that we know what we're doing. We're orbiting the planet Pyrus 7.
Right.
And I found that on Memory Alpha, so I do my research. And so, okay, setting. Now we are opening up on the bridge, and Uhura is trying to desperately contact Sulu and Scotty and Jackson, who are a landing party on said planet. And Kirk and Spock are like, what's wrong? Why can't you find them? Because they've gone radio silent.
Yes. There's also some discrepancy, at least when I watched it in the beginning, because they mentioned several times there's no other life forms detected by the ship scanners except the landing party. But are they still reading the landing party? Because if they are and they can't get a hold of them, if there's no other life forms, why don't they just beam them up? So that must be like it happens later in the episode where those life forms disappear, and they must be referring to the fact that when they first beamed down, they were able to detect the landing party's life forms or life signals on the planet, and no other life forms were detected.
Agreed, because that happens when the second party goes down.
Yeah, but just from a logistics or procedural standpoint, again, your landing party suddenly stops communicating, you can't get a hold of them. If you have a sensor lock on them, you should beam them up to get them out of danger.
I believe that they've lost complete, from what I gathered, they've lost complete contact. Their Apple Pay, all that great stuff is not being connected until Jackson is like, yo, beam me up. Just one of me is alive. Let's go.
Yeah, and they just don't, and it's just not mentioned in dialogue that they've lost the sensor reading for the away team.
And he doesn't even say anything. It's just mechanical. Beam me up. One's ready. Nothing, like no other mention.
Right, because we find it's not really Jackson.
And so they're like, where's Scotty and Sulu? And then again, he's like, come on, come on. So Kirk and Spock like run to the transporter room, and McCoy is also called to join them in case Jackson needs help, because two are not coming. One has been able to maybe escape. So McCoy, save us. And I did note, this is the first time I noticed how beautiful Ahora's communication board is. All of those beautiful jewels, I love them.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. I have it in my notes too, because it is a very prominent shot of that panel that she's working with. Other panels are switches, buttons. Some of them have kind of a jewel-like look to it, but her workstation looks like a crystal shop.
I love it. I rewound it a couple of times because it's really pretty.
Yeah, and there's no labels.
No, she knows where, like a keyboard, she knows where all of them are.
Yeah, there's no labels on any of the buttons. There's no screens on any of that. There's no touchpads. It is literally all just crystal buttons.
She's like a court reporter. She's got her own little...
It's called a stenographer.
There you go. So anyways, so they run to the transporter room, and our good old Mr. Kyle is down there ready to beam up Jackson. And McCoy has arrived. He's like, why am I needed? And then Kirk simply just tells him, trouble. And then Jackson arrives. He is just standing there, and instead of like walking off, he tumbles off dead. But then he's dead, but there's another voice coming from him that we learn this person's name is Korab, and he's telling them, there's a curse on the Enterprise. You better leave or you're going to die. And then I also put a side note that why are we killing off crew members like every single episode?
Because it's fun. Because it's entertaining.
I mean, we even gave this guy a name.
Yeah, we did give this one a name.
Poor Jackson.
Yeah. Also interesting that the entire... So, to jump forward slightly, and we'll cover it when we get to it, Scotty and Sulu are the quote-unquote Catspaw. They're the lures. There's the bait. But Korab and Sylvia try very hard to scare them off. Why?
Because we learned that these are all tests.
But for what? What are they testing?
Loyalty, bravery.
Yeah, but what does it get them?
I think because when we learn where those two people or aliens are from, they don't get to feel these sensations. Bravery is a sensation. Loyalty is a sensation. Even though you can't feel it, you feel it within your soul.
So they're just setting up all these different tests to elicit these things from the Enterprise crew so they can experience it themselves.
Plus, they're going to gain who knows how many more human type people. Spock, he's human-like. Like, they're going to gain so many more people, so that's so many more brains that they can elicit information from.
Sure, because we never do, it's never explained to us in plain detail what their quote-unquote mission is while they're here, other than just the vague sense of explorers and gainers of knowledge.
Right. So now we are going to go down to the planet. I don't know why Kirk always has to go down. And then he takes his first officer, and then, of course, the doctor. So, like, the three most important people are leaving, and we leave this assistant. He has a title, but we leave Desal in charge, and he thinks he has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
So he's very stressed.
Well, not just the captain, not just the first officer, Spock, but Scotty's already missing.
And Sulu.
And Sulu's already missing.
And who knows what Jackson was in charge of.
They're really digging deep into the roster, sending guys down to the planet on this one.
And so we're now on the planet, and the planet is like gloomy, it's rocky, we see fog, but when they were researching the planet, fog was not on it. It was basically a dead planet, like nothing, just rocks. So they're surprised, but Spock is like, it's not real. Like, dude, we could see the fog. But, oh well. And so they keep walking around. They talk about how the area doesn't have any water. The temperature is not requiring the water to mix with the air to create the fog. So where's the fog coming from?
Right. Our first clue that this is all manufactured in some way.
And this is the exact spot where Jackson beamed up.
Right. Because where else would you start looking?
So they're carefully walking through the fog, and you see Kirk like gingerly walk down a drop in the rock, and they like keep going away, and Spock is scanning the area. There's nothing. but he does pick up life forms that were once there in a lower, flatter area. So they keep going down, down, down. And Kirk is finally able to contact the Enterprise and wants to know about readings from the ship. The ship doesn't have anything different to give them. It's like nothing.
Right.
They're different.
The whole time throughout this entire episode, the ship never detects any of these things that they see, the two life forms. The only thing that they pick up is it's a dead planet. They get the 3 signals from the landing party, which eventually disappears, we learn. But yeah, they never get to experience any of this on the ship's sensors.
And then when we're trying to talk back to them on the planet, there's static interference and they cannot communicate because the fog is getting thicker and there's interference. And Desaul's kind of upset that all this is happening and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, I don't think Desaul wants to be in charge. You're right, he has a lot to prove and he does his best, but I bet you he's just sitting there going, man, I just wanted a normal shift today.
Well, he yells at Chekhov for no reason.
Right.
Later on. So all 3 on the planet have their phasers ready because they hear high-pitched wailing behind them. And they turn around and see these 3 grotesque beings calling out to them like, don't go over there. There's a curse on the Enterprise.
Which you could only understand if you had the captions on.
I had them on that.
Yeah.
I had them on.
That was the moment when I was watching the episode where I realized I didn't have the captions on because I was trying to listen. I'm like, what are they saying? Oh, I got to turn the captions on. I can't understand what they're saying.
And then Kirk's like, what did we just see? And Spock says, bad poetry.
Bad poetry, bad special effects, because it's supposed to be a special effect where it was just floating disembodied heads.
Ooh.
But as you watch it,
they have bodies.
You can see that the 3 actors or actresses who are playing these parts of these witches are wearing just full turtleneck bodysuits. And kind of funny that they didn't fix that in the remastered version, because that's what we watched.
I think they tried to make it more floaty like a ghost.
Yeah, but it's not executed well.
So in these voices also talk about how the winds are going to get high and the ship is going to be pushed away. Go away, be safe, but not until we get our men. And yes, the wind picks up, the fog gets deeper, so the men are pushed into like a crevice. And I like how Kirk's like a trust fall into Spock and McCoy as he's like, oh, the wind.
Yeah.
And then they all go and hide in this crevice.
Yeah, and everyone hides in the crevice. Kirk kind of stays outside the crevice. He definitely gets the most wind blasted. His hair gets completely messed up. But then, of course, in the next scene, it's all fixed.
And he's like, and McCoy's like, whoa, those winds were sure real for being an illusion.
Yeah. This is the part of the episode where they, between the disembodied heads of the witches and the wind blast, someone is showing off the special effects that they have on set today.
They're very proud of them. So then they turn around from the wailing heads and they see a giant black castle. It's beautiful and grotesque and, I mean, things that we love.
Yes.
We love the macabre.
Yes, and it's raining. There's a giant flag on the top of the castle of a lightning bolt. They shelter beneath some newspaper. They start singing There's a Light.
Oh.
Jaci catches on to the Rocky Horror reference.
Well, I'm focusing on what's next on my, I think I only have 10 pages of notes this time.
10 pages of notes this episode. Jaci is falling down on the job.
I'm working on it. And so they all like run to the castle. And as they enter the castle, they are welcomed by a black cat.
Yes.
Like, okay, hello. And they're starting to think, ghouls, castles, what's going on here?
They're starting to draw that huge, heavy-handed comparison that the show is trying to put, and references they force in about Halloween. There's lots of fun little quotes and funny moments about trick-or-treating and Spock not getting the reference to trick-or-treating.
But he'd be a natural at it if he did.
Yeah. It's also a lot of, I don't know exactly what part in the episode, I'll just point it out overall. There's a lot of interesting musical choices to the episode. It's a lot of that oboe sound.
English horn.
There's a lot of that English horn sound that gets kind of associated with goofy moments.
Yeah, like a goofy evil, like something creepy's happening.
Yeah. And so it's not tense, it's not horror. It still adds in this comedic element to this whole episode. Sometimes I think it fits, sometimes I think it doesn't fit.
I think because the English horn, we don't know about it as much because it's a cousin of the oboe, and it adds a dramatic effect.
Yes.
I just love music. I gotta explain what I'm talking about. So they continue walking, and then the door slams shut. So, well, what can we do? Let's keep going forward. The cat seems to be leading us somewhere. Maybe they're like a dog, and we follow it.
Knowing what we know about the cat and what the cat is and who the cat is, do you think the cat's leading them to the next scene?
Totally.
Okay, I agree.
Because what it does is it leads them down a corridor where, oh my gosh, a hole appears and they fall down.
Right.
And they're all like passed out, and then we have a commercial break.
Yes. Kind of funny because it took me a minute to recognize. We'll come back from, they fall down, we get the scene or the shot of them at the bottom of this chamber now that they've fallen into, and then we come back from commercial break and they're chained up against the wall. And then later in the episode we find out it's the exact same room.
Right. And also note, this is also where we notice that the cat has a giant jewel hanging from its collar.
Right, which will be important to the episode later.
So I called it the hole dungeon, like hole and dungeon, because when we come back from break.
No, the whole dungeon.
Hole, Hole.
No, I got it. Yep, that's an apt name for it.
Because it has the hole on top. All right, so Kirk, Spock, and McCoy awake from their unconsciousness, and they are chained to the wall. And
in the whole dungeon.
Yes. And McCoy is like staring at a skeleton that is also chained to the wall.
Yes.
There's Iron Maidens. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's not the band.
It's not an Iron Maiden.
Kirk talks about Iron Maidens. He talks about other things that are scary with Halloween.
Yes, he talks about Iron Maidens, but there is no Iron Maiden.
Correct. He just is listing all these things that go hand in hand with what they're experiencing.
Yes, we are going to get the torture implements right on this episode. Gosh darn it.
Iron Maiden's right there in front of them.
It's not an Iron Maiden. We're back. We pulled up the scene.
The Google machine
to confirm, because we want to give the best, most accurate information to our audience. Jaci, it is not an Iron Maiden. It is a
gibbet.
It is a gibbet. It is a device used to display the remains of executed prisoners or
killing them,
waiting for them to die.
Yeah, poor things. And then Spock's like, wait, we're like in all kinds of things that you Earthlings like manifest. Like this is like your worst thoughts kind of thing.
Right. This is I'd also point out there's a fun little scene in this where Kirk looks over at McCoy and he goes, "Bones? Doc?" But they're also looking at the skeleton.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that.
That's a fun little scene. But yeah, also point out that did you notice that the skeleton that is hanging up in the shackles has the incision or the cut in its cranium, marking it as a medical skeleton?
Yes.
That would be used in medical school.
And every time they showed a skeleton, I remember your skeleton when I met you. Not like your physical one, but the one we dressed up.
Steve.
Yeah.
Steve.
It was fun.
Bottom from Spirit Halloween, made many appearances at Rocky Horror shows and other things. Yeah, Steve Irwin. We miss him.
So they're chatting, trying to figure out what's happening because Spock has made the astute realization that these chains are in fact real.
Yes.
And not fake. So enter Sulu and Scotty, and they're like, yeah, thank you for saving us. And the men are straight-faced, and Scotty has a phaser, and they're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're not here to save us.
Yeah. You just expressed 1,000 times more enthusiasm than the poor acting exhibited by Kirk and McCoy.
Well, I'm looking at your stopped image, and they all look like they're modeling for some bikini outfit or something. I mean, look at Kirk. Hey, look at my bum.
Yeah. For the reference, we're still looking at the image of the gibbet. If you want to look at the remastered version of Kirk showing off his butt in the shackles, it is at mark 13 minutes 27 seconds.
And Spock's doing a wall sit with his legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, epitome of human function.
Just because this is the part where they're still unconscious.
Oh.
They haven't woken up yet is where I've paused it.
And so...
Where were we?
And so Kirk's like, hey, unlock us. Put the phaser down. Hi, guys, wake up. And then Kirk's like, do you know who we are? After McCoy's like, they've been drugged. Like, they're not answering any questions.
Right.
But they do acknowledge Sulu and Scotty know who these three men are.
Yes.
But they can't do anything except hold up the keys, Sulu does, and walk toward each man and unlock them from their cuffs.
Yeah, one of them says, I think they're going to release us. And then we have to sit through what feels like 20 minutes
forever
of Sulu pantomiming, unlocking the shackles with the key. Because if you notice, he's not doing anything with that key.
No.
He just walks up, holds it against the shackles, does a little half turn with his wrist, and then they physically pull down on their arms to release the shackles.
I mean, it's a giant key. Maybe he's, weak today.
Or they have safety shackles.
All right. And so the men, Scotty and Sulu, are ushering them up the stairs. And then Kirk and Spock, turn around trying to, tackle them and take the phaser away. And then poof, we are now in a beautifully decorated room. And a man who you say you love is sitting on a throne in this beautiful robe with a chin beard and bald head. I mean, he is pretty fancy.
This is Korob, and I don't love him. I think he's an interesting character. First and foremost...
Well, I can't wait till October.
Fantastic costume.
Yes.
Fantastic robe with the seeing eye. I just think he's an interesting character for the episode.
He definitely develops in the way I did not expect. No,
definitely takes it in a direction that you don't expect.
And so, of course, Kirk does compliment him about, this is great use of illusion, but why are we here? And why is Scotty and Sulu acting like that?
And why do you have a cat?
Well, he's just sitting there being loved at the moment. And the man that we know as Korob responds with his own questions. When did your race, meaning humans, begin questioning things and not just accepting the is, like what you're in right now? And Scott and Sulu are not mindless beings. They're just simply controlled.
Right. Not really sure why that distinction is important to point out. Also kind of weird that I guess, so do we just think that he's upset or questioning why Kirk and Spock and McCoy are doubting their surroundings because it interferes with his mission? Do you think his mission goes smoother if they just accept reality for the illusions as reality?
I think if they didn't already believe that these were all odd manifestations from child lore and what he assumed was, quote, normal for them, it would have been okay. But I think he's surprised that they don't see it as normal.
Right, because, I mean, it's just an odd statement to roll it back to what you said, because that's exactly what he says, is, when did you humans start questioning everything? But he doesn't have any prior contact with humans.
Right.
This is the first time that they've come to this dimension, this planet, encountered humans, etc.
Well, he has two examples because Scotty and Sulu were already there.
So did they accept everything as reality?
I wouldn't think so.
So I think he just has to be referring to the fact of, again, they can only access the subconscious and these lower parts of the human brain, and that just is evolution and instinct. But he's just confused because he thinks that's what humans are.
Exactly. And he hasn't yet clocked Spock as being different, I think.
Correct.
And since he's there, he already knows everybody's name, and the black cat that they've been following is sitting next to him on its own throne, his giant jewel, and it's kind of like, you know how when our cats want to be pets more and they like get in your face, like this cat is insisting on being listened to.
Right. Well, because we later learn why, that it is in fact trying to boss Korob around.
And then, of course, Korob reminds him that you don't have to be here. You insisted on coming. So now you get to stay. And I mean, Kurt insults him by calling all of this mumbo jumbo. And then that's when the cat becomes really upset. And I mean, Spock, because Spock's like, we've already been here. A while ago, we charted this planet. There was no life forms. So why are you here? What's happening? Answer our questions so we can go home.
Yeah. It's also it's kind of messy the way this episode deals with Korob and Sylvia and their quote-unquote powers, because
they're not very together in their cultness.
No, because they refer to their powers as magic. Kirk and Spock refer to it as magic. There's, in this moment, the awkward reference that Spock makes about wizards and their demonic familiars and witchcraft and the witches outside. And
yes, the cat is the demon in animal form.
And I'm just like, which, by the way, seems to set up that Korob had summoned a quote-unquote demon. This is how I interpreted it in this moment. Korob had summoned a demon, Sylvia, and gotten all of his powers through her, and was working quote-unquote in tandem with her, but she ultimately was in charge and the more powerful of the two and all of that. None of which is true. They're equal. They're both on a mission. They're both just aliens.
Right. And then don't forget that Korob also now this is when he notices that Spock is different, that there is no color in his thinking. It's all black and white, logical, one and done.
Yeah, different lower brain function than humans.
And then did you also notice that this is when we see a magic wand, like a black stick with a giant glass ball on the end?
Yeah.
I was very jealous of that wand.
It's going to be very key to the story here.
I do wish that it had a bigger importance until it waited until the end. Korob just held it until the end.
And we don't really get any kind of
why.
Well, there's no formal explanation as to what it is.
Right.
I mean, the way the episode ends with it destroying everything when it is destroyed seems to make it this focal point, and it is the source of their power. But just beforehand, Sylvia tries to explain it away as it's not the source of our power, it's just the focus of our power. Our minds are
amplifier.
Our power. Yeah, so who knows?
So, and then Korob's like, oh my gosh, where are my manners? You guys must be hungry, thirsty. And flick with the wand, there's a feast on the table. And the men refuse to eat, no thank you. And then so Korob's like, well, what about this? And empty plate, then poof, filled with jewels, diamonds, sapphires, rubies. This is what you want, right? Take all of these, go away, don't ask any questions. Love you, bye. And Kirk's like, we can just make these on our own. Just give us our friends. And again, Korob is still confused. He read differently. So it sounds like he studied them, like humans in general.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have had an opportunity to study them unless they studied them in depth while they were passed out after they fell in the hole. But
well, this is when we realize that about those tests. Bravery, unable to be bribed. They're loyal because they came back to get their crew. And again, the cat is very mad and she runs out. We learned it's a girl. And she runs out of the room. And then poof, she comes back and she's this beautiful lady dressed in black. And she has her hair up on her head and she has, beautiful turquoise makeup. So pretty.
And she has a necklace that is identical to the jewel that was on the collar of the cat. So we know it's the cat.
Oh, I have a matching necklace. Maybe I can be a kitty.
There you go. And she introduces herself as Sylvia.
Yes. And she teases Kirk, Spock, and McCoy about how easy it is to gain access to the human mind. Like, but Spock's like, how can that be? And he's like spouting out options: hypnosis, telepathy, mind probing, and she's just laughing. And as she plays with her necklace, McCoy is staring at it. And then when Spock suggests telepathy, Sylvia is like, well, that doesn't include control. So he's almost on track.
Right. And she gives a very generic explanation of, you guys would know this as sympathetic magic. We don't have time to get into what sympathetic magic is. That's a whole nother topic. Much like this episode of our podcast, this episode of the TV show, when it has pacing issues, we tend to follow. So quickly to summarize the next scene, they want information from the humans. So they produce this little miniature metal model of the Enterprise. And they say, well, obviously, if we can't influence you, we have to exert pressure on you. So then Sylvia dangles it over a candle. We get a very prolonged scene where they are able to communicate with the Enterprise for a brief moment. And they report down to Kirk that the temperature on the Enterprise is quickly rising. Draw the parallel. She's basically doing a voodoo doll. She gives an explanation. This is how she killed Jackson in the very beginning. It's all very convoluted. But Kirk seems to give Sylvia what they want and says he'll cooperate. He pulls her hand away from the candle, puts the little metal model of the Enterprise on the table along with the phaser that he was holding. There's a really weird back and forth between Karab and Sylvia where Karab is trying to explain some things about, yes, it's magic, but we have a device that we use. That's how we entered your quote-unquote reality. Sylvia keeps cutting him off, telling him that he talks too much and that he's giving too much away. But in any case, Kirk gets tired of it. He says that there's going to be people coming down to rescue them, and Karab says no, and he uses his magic. He uses the wand, I think, in that moment.
Yes.
And encases the metal miniature model of the Enterprise in clear plastic resin, is what it looks like, and says, well, now there's a force field around the Enterprise. Now there's no landing parties coming. Nothing you can do about it.
And this is when McCoy realizes you used Scotty and Sulu as Catspaws and lured us here.
That's where we get the explanation of the title of the episode.
On the Enterprise, Desal is having Chekhov work on the force field. They have determined that it is in fact real, so that means it could be affected. So Desal reaches out to engineering and has them divert all their power and impulse engines to create like a superheat, and they're going to try and create a dent in the force field. And I love his line. It's like, maybe we can't break it, but I'll bet you credits to Navy beans we could put a dent in it.
Yeah. It's kind
I
of
love him.
It's kind of the catch quote of the episode.
Don't steal my quote.
I'm not, trust me, I really, really did not want to use that as my favorite quote for the episode. There's also no point to this. It doesn't it doesn't change anything about the episode.
I think he's trying to do whatever he can so he can reach his captain and 100%
whatever. Agree, but yes, and they managed to put a dent in it like he says, but ultimately that doesn't change the outcome or the trajectory of the plot for the episode.
And so, as we missed earlier, Sylvia and Karab have sent Spock and Kirk away so that they can just do one-on-one counseling, mind probing with Dr. McCoy. And Spock's like, oh, we've been in here for 22 minutes, 17 seconds. And this is also when the two start talking about all of these myths, dungeons, black cats, ghosts. They're referring to race memories, which I thought was interesting, and being in the subconscious. How Sylvia couldn't reach the conscious mind when she tried.
Right.
But she got underneath, and that's where they found all these creepy Halloween things.
Which I think is probably the most interesting part of the episode that they never follow up on.
It would have been fun to explore more.
Yeah. I think later when Kirk is seducing Sylvia, that we'll get to, that again is kind of what they were trying to tap into, is she played into it because that's what she was able to detect in his brain.
Suddenly, the dungeon door opens, and like, oh, someone coming to save us? No. McCoy is now straight-faced. He's a soldier along with Sulu and Scotty, and they take Kirk out of the dungeon towards the pretty room.
And then we jump over to that pretty room and we get Sylvia and Karab and we get them in an argument. Again, this is very much my parallel draw to Rocky Horror. Sylvia is saying that she likes these new sensations that she's experiencing. Karab is arguing back, saying that she's going off mission parameters and she's strained from their original intention. And Sylvia is very much like, I don't care. I have the power. You can't do anything to stop me. If you don't like it, tough. Don't stand in my way. Also of note, Karab, as he's reminding Sylvia about their mission, says that they have a duty to the old ones, which again I think is fantastic. We'll get to it later. But again, Sylvia doesn't care.
And she even calls the sensation stimulating. And then she just like walks to the throne with her beautiful dress like flowing.
Right.
She loves everything touch. It's pretty wild. So Kirk is finally brought into the room where Sylvia sends the others and Karab away. Is she going to wipe his mind now too? And Sylvia responds, they've all been drained of knowledge and will, no damage at all. However, Kirk tells her, like, as a woman, you should see there's damage and have compassion. Like, what's wrong with you? But she's like, sure, I'm a woman, but I've never felt all these things. Like, she's like drunk on sensation.
Right. Drunk on all these new feelings that she's experiencing. And it's kind of unclear whether she had this plan coming into this meeting with Kirk or if she just kind of decides in the moment. But Kirk definitely jumps on this opportunity and starts to seduce Sylvia, starts to...
Well, because she asks him what power feels like. And how do you explain power?
Right. And Sylvia explains that, you know what, forget my mission, forget Karab, forget all of this. Why don't you and I... She wants to join Kirk. And she says, hey, with my power and your ability to, I don't know, guide me through these sensations, and we can go exploring and we can go off on our own and do our own thing. Kirk very much leans very heavily into it to get more information, which is where we get that reference to the transmuter, and that's the device that they use.
Oh, yeah. His pillow talk is like, so, where are you from?
Yeah, so where you from? You got a transmuter? That's cool. Where you keep it, girl? But it's kind of still muddled. It's the key to her power, but not really. Who knows? But ultimately, at the end, she discovers that Kirk is basically just taking advantage and using her. Don't know how she discovers it, but she must tap into something. And she gets pissed off at Kirk and has him hauled away back to the dungeon.
Now we're in the castle dungeon. And
the whole dungeon.
The dungeon in the castle?
The whole dungeon, as you referred to it at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, yes. And Karab is racing in, and he is releasing them from their shackles and gives the communicators and the weapons back to Kirk and Spock. Sadly, the phaser has been drained of energy, and he's like, dang it, I could have stole this from Scotty at the beginning.
Right. And Karab expresses remorse in how everything's kind of turned out. He kind of offers an explanation that he feels like this could have been a more peaceful encounter, that he never intended any harm, kind of throwing all the blame on Sylvia, and she's drunk on what she's experiencing with these sensations, and she's slowly lost her mind. And then we get this very long, drawn-out process where Karab leads them out of the dungeon. They're running through the castle hallways. They encounter Sylvia back in cat form, but now she's gigantic. She fills the entire hallway. And that's where they find the phaser's been drained. She chases them all the way back into the dungeon. And we get more giant cat special effects. The cat knocks down the heavy dungeon door onto Karab, which seems like it kills him, but doesn't. We find out later.
Surprise.
No, it's not a surprise. But Karab does drop the magic wand that you like so much.
I do.
we also find out that this is the scene where we find out that the dungeon and the room that they fell down the hole in is the same, because I don't know why, I guess there's no other way out, but Spock and Kirk jump up through the hole back to the original hallway. They have a huge fight scene between Sulu, Scotty, McCoy, who are still under the influence of Sylvia.
Don't forget Sulu's funny stunt double.
Sulu's funny stunt double. Yeah, Scotty and McCoy have like these giant maces that they're using, like medieval maces. And then Sulu has nothing, but he knows martial arts.
He's like, cha-cha.
Because that's not stereotypical. Problematic. Moving on.
He already did a show like that. He's good. And then Kirk has the wand now, and he's like, Sylvia, I have the transmuter. And then, she comes back to being a human, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And she's all like, let me have that. And Spock's like, don't let her have it. And she's like, I was just touching my chest. Oops. And then, poof, they're in the pretty room again.
Right, which, let's just cover this real quick, because this is toward the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvia never needs the wand to execute her powers.
She just calls it an amplifier to what her brain is thinking.
Korbos always needs the wand.
Yes.
To use the powers. So I don't really know why she wants the wand so bad.
That way, she'll always be powerful, and she can do whatever she wants.
But she doesn't need the wand.
It's like a scepter.
She never needs the wand to use her powers. She's never holding the wand when she does it. Even in this moment where she poofs Kirk, the wand, and her into the pretty room, she's not holding the wand.
I think the way that she wants to have it, though, will give her extra power.
Okay.
Like like she keeps calling it amplifier. Her mind is the source. So as an amplifier, it would give her a bigger reach.
Okay. Like Thanos and all the Infinity Stones.
Sure. Or like a guitar amplifier.
Both very different comparisons. Anyway, we're in the pretty room.
And she's like, tell me more. Like, we can become powerful together, you and me, Kirk. I can learn from you. You can learn from me. We'll be powerful couples. And like, just come with me. And Kirk's like, no, you tortured my men. You tease them asking for love, but only give them pain. And then, of course, she's like, give me the transmuter. And then Kirk finally is like, you want it? You want it this bad? Smashes it on the table. And then giant poof. And we're now on the rocky planet. The entire illusion is gone.
Right. There's no more castle. There's no more
fog.
There's no more fog of any kind. It's all gone.
And McCoy, Sulu, and Scotty have been returned back to normal.
Yep.
Thank goodness.
And they all reconvene together on Kirk.
And what we do see, though, are two little, like, baby bird-like things that are chirping. And Spock's like, why don't we, research them and look at them? And then, so sorry, they died.
They die. They start to disintegrate. They start to smoke.
And just blue feathers are left, like from a feather boa.
Yeah.
And then even though they mention all of this was an illusion, Kirk has to remind them that Jackson died, and that was definitely real. And since all of everything, the interference and the fog are gone, they're finally able to reach Enterprise, and the 5 of them beam back up. And that's the end. There's no weird joke, no awkward joke, no nothing at the end. They just fly off having fun.
Yep. And roll credits. So, Jackie, what did you think about Season 2, Episode 7, Catspaw?
I found it entertaining. I liked that they tried to incorporate Halloween things and have someone presume this is what humans enjoy. But then I also am struggling that some of these episodes seem to be copying each other with just like a twist in elements.
Okay, what was this copying?
Like, I feel like they kept, like, there was still a hint of the Squire of Gothos. Like, this is what humans must like, so why not do it? And then put them in, like players, like characters.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, and I think that's kind of something that you encounter in the original series. I think when you get into the Next Generation and later series, they have new ideas, they have new episodes, but then they also have the benefit of being able to fall back on the original series, and when they do repeat some of the episodes later on, and we get these repeated themes, we all just kind of put on our rose-colored glasses and go, it's an homage to the original series. But in reality, they are just repeating themselves. Here in the original series, they have nothing to pay homage to, so they are just repeating themselves. So you're right. It is kind of that same thing where they do kind of repeat a lot of these themes. So,
but it wasn't blatantly in your face, and I liked that part.
Okay. Yeah, and as I said, I like this episode a lot. As a Rocky Horror fan, when you draw a parallel to Rocky Horror, watching the episode, that's what I think of. My complaint with that parallel is if you want it to be a true homage or link to Rocky Horror, Korbos needed to be the one to kill Sylvia, much in the way that Riff Raff is the one who kills Frankenfurter. You need that plot point for the aliens themselves to rebel amongst themselves and bring the alien mission back on track.
So does that mean this was made after
No,
Rocky Horror?
no. In no way. I keep calling it an homage, but it's an unintentional parallel, for sure.
Were they made close together?
No, this was 1967 and Rocky Horror was 1975.
So Rocky could have copied them.
It could be. Richard O'Brien could have taken
little snippets
of this. But in any case, again, I like the episode.
Yeah.
It has its problems. It has definite pacing issues because it's a lot of stuff in the beginning and then they try to cram a lot of stuff into the end. Like that whole part about Sylvia chasing them down the hallway as a giant cat feels like it takes forever, but between Sylvia first appearing as a giant cat in the very end and them beaming away and flying away, it's like 4 minutes. So the whole conclusion to this episode is within the last 5-6 minutes of the episode. Huge pacing issues, but it's fun. It's a good episode.
Oh, I totally agree. We learned a lot of facts. Like Spock was spitting them out.
Yes, he was. And before we get to our favorite quotes to round out our thoughts to the episode, again, don't forget to jump over to our Patreon after listening, where we'll post our bonus episode, our Star Note episode, where we will tackle the question and do a slightly deeper dive into, did Karab genuinely understand humanity better than Sylvia? So we'll jump into that again over at our Patreon, patreon.com/Treks and Tangents. After this episode, jump on over, free for all of our followers on Patreon. Jackie, what is going to be your favorite quote to round out your thoughts to the episode?
I have two because I loved when Desau was like, credits to Beans, we're going to put a dent in it. I'm assuming that was like a phrase in the back of the day because he calls it like Navy beans.
Sure.
Or like where he's from.
Sure.
It kind of had a lot of pressure on him. But we kind of skipped over it. But as Spock and Kirk and at the time, Karab, they're trying to get out of the dungeon hole. Spock had already jumped out of the hole and he tells Kirk as he's like trying to push a bed under, he's like, a little more alacrity, if you please. And I had to look up the word because he said it so flatly. And he's like, that means, can you please hurry up and get out of the hole? And he was just like flat, just like, come on, let's go.
Yeah, tossing the big words around. My favorite quote is going to be when Sylvia and Karab are having their real big argument in the pretty room, and Sylvia is going off the rails, talking about how she doesn't care about the mission anymore, and Karab is reminding her that they serve the old ones and all of that, and Karab says, I have the power, and Sylvia says, but you're afraid to use it. Again, one of the parts of the episode that I really wish they had dived into more, so I like that they had this moment where you see this dynamic between the two of them, and it's one of the first times that you kind of understand their dynamic and their relationship between the two of them. I think we'll dive into that more in our star note for sure, but that's going to be my favorite quote. And I, of course, have some Tribble tidbits or interesting facts to the episode. And why do we call them Tribble tidbits, Jaci?
Because Tribbles are the best.
Because sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're not, but they're always interesting. This episode first aired October 27, 1967, so the week of Halloween.
Makes sense?
Totally intentional. The sounds made by the small creatures at the end of the episode, that they were the real form of Karab and Sylvia, that sound was freshly hatched baby alligators calling out for their mother.
I knew it.
The metal prop miniature of the Enterprise from the episode was later donated to the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum by Gene Roddenberry. The original script called for Uhura to be in charge of the Enterprise in this episode, not Dasal. The original order of command written out by Gene Roddenberry put Uhura as fourth in command. Kirk, Spock, Scotty, and then Uhura.
But she's a woman, so she can't be the captain.
Because NBC put their foot down and said no. So shame on you, NBC. Shame on you.
Tons of strikes.
Theodore Marcuse, who played Karab, unfortunately died in a car accident 1 month after the airing of this episode.
Oh.
This is going to be another reference to the old ones. The last time we heard a reference to the old ones would be What Are Little Girls Made Of? Both were written by Robert Bloch, who is a fan of H.P. Lovecraft. And again, I would love for there to be some more mythos and some more Star Trek references to the old gods and the old ones. That's just me. The puppets of the creatures at the end of the episode were made of random blue fluff, pipe cleaners, and crab pinchers. In the original version of the episode, you can clearly see that the little movements are being manipulated by very thick black strings. Those were later edited out and removed from the remastered version that we watched.
I love it.
Also of note that those real forms, what Korbos and Sylvia, their real forms are in our universe, you will see them frequently depicted on screens and data pads several times in Deep Space Nine in the Star Trek television series. They appear in background, so little Easter eggs tying back to the original series. And finally, my last Tribble tidbit for the episode. This is going to be, while it's not the first episode that aired in the second season, it is the first episode that was filmed and produced for the second season, which is why Chekhov is back in that terrible wig.
I was going to say his hair is really bad.
Yep, it's because, again, it wasn't grown out. This is literally the first episode that they made. So those are going to be your Tribble tidbits this week. But let's dive into ranking our episode. This is where we're going to pretend the episode is a member of our crew of a fictitious starship, and we're going to assign a Starfleet rank to the episode. A higher rank means we were not only more entertained by the episode, but we find the episode to be a more valuable member of our crew. And a lower rank is, of course, the opposite. We're less entertained by the episode, and we find the episode to be a more disposable member of our crew. Our ranks start at the bottom with Ensign, Lieutenant Junior Grade, and Lieutenant, and we can have an unlimited number of episodes at those ranks. And then we move into Lieutenant Commanders. We can have a total of 7. We can have 5 Commanders. We can have 1 Captain. And we can have 1 Admiral, or beyond perfect episode for the season. Jaci, for this episode, joining the crew of the USS Luminaria, what is going to be your rank this week?
I'm going to go ahead and add it to the Lieutenant.
Lieutenant, which puts it there with Amok Time, a.k.a. the Horny Vulcan episode. Why are you going to give it a rank of Lieutenant?
I think it did a great job as a storyline in general, but I still have tons of tiny questions. I still have questions about like tiny little parts that I think they could have expanded on. And it's Luminara.
I'm never going to get that right. And this week for the USS Comet, my ranking... You know what? I'm going to go on a limb. I'm also going to rank it on the same rank as Amok Time. It's going to be a rank of Commander for me.
Ooh.
So, again, I think this episode is fun. It's kind of stupid. It's kind of goofy. I'm probably biased in my ranking because I find such a tie and parallel to the story of Rocky Horror, but it's still very entertaining, even though it has its pacing issues, even though it's problematic, even though that there is a ton of storylines that I wish they had dived deeper into. It's still going to be probably one of my favorite episodes for the season itself. So I'm going to put it up there as a Commander. If none of that made any sense, because this is an audio podcast, don't worry. We will post a visual representation of our rankings over at our Patreon, patreon.com/treksandtangents. Free again for everyone to view. And we will post the update on Wednesday, the day after this episode goes live. Go over, check it out alongside all of the free Star Note bonus episodes that we post. Just for comparison, as over on IMDb, as of recording, Jaci, what do you think the ranking is?
I'm going to go with a 6.5.
It is a 6.2.
Oh, almost.
Out of 10. Again, not a very well-liked episode. A 6, anywhere in the 6s are going to kind of be the bottom ranking for...
But I think it was kind of enjoyed by the general public. I mean, it wasn't like a 2 or a 1.
You won't find 2s or 1s.
Oh.
So 6 is
tried.
6 is going to kind of be the bottom of the episode ranking. So again, not very well loved. So we kind of deviated a little bit with our opinions. And we'll be back next week to trek through another episode. But before we go, we'll give our Turbolift tease or elevator pitch to next week's episode. This is where I'll give Jaci the title of next week's episode, and Jaci, with no other explanation or context, will give the plot, or at least her guess to what the plot will be. Jaci, next week's episode is entitled I, Mud, spelled with 2 D's, of course.
Our favorite Mr. Mud is coming back, and he's already popped on the Enterprise to do a little wicked magic. But we don't know he's there until one of our security guards find him and bring him up and say, Kirk, what are we going to do about this?
And tune in next week to see how accurate Jaci's prediction is.
Cross my fingers.
If you want more show information, you can find and directly support our podcast over at Patreon, patreon.com/treksandtangents. Again, every episode we post a bonus Star Note episode that is free for everyone who follows our podcast. We take a 10, 15, 20-minute deeper dive into the episode and some questions or topics from the episode we didn't have time to cover here. We also post a graphical representation of the episode rankings, as I mentioned. Again, free for everyone. For those that support our Patreon, our crew members, we do a deeper dive into the animated series for Star Trek. We have all of our test episodes that we recorded when we were just getting started with this little podcast.
And when I wrote on paper.
And when Jaci still took her notes on paper, driving me absolutely nuts.
You know you liked it.
You can also follow us on x.com/Treks_tangents. We're also on Instagram and Blue Sky as Treks and Tangents. Jaci, where can people find you, and what are you up to?
I am still mostly on Instagram as Jaboom, JIBBOOM. I'm currently flooding the Instagram with my bouncing back from having my hip replaced. I go to physical therapy twice a week. I've been videoing everything I do. I do need to throw my music back in because, I mean, that's my heart. And if you need a lesson, I would be happy to help you with what you'd like to learn because I know all the music instruments and I'd be happy to help you or your child.
There you go. And you can watch me stream a variety of video games over at twitch.tv/PiratePoundTown. On YouTube, I post video game and other content also as Pirate Pound Town. My secondary channel on YouTube for coin collecting and other hobby content is Pirate Treasure Hunting. I post socially on Blue Sky as Pirate Pound Town, and you can find me over on Instagram as Pineapple Cannibal. Links to all of our social media mentioned can be found in the episode description. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this week's episode. We hope you had fun like we did, and we will see you all next week.
We should all have a wand with a glass ball at the end.
End transmission.